Hello everyone, welcome to the TrueStory Insights channel. Today, let's explore a story that took place over 30 years ago in the northern Chinese city of Qiqihar. Let's get started. On the morning of June 9, 1987, as the sun was just beginning to rise over the fields outside Qiqihar city in Heilongjiang province, an old farmer named Mr. Wang set out on his usual walk. As Mr. Wang strolled along the path beside the train tracks, he suddenly heard a faint, desperate cry for help. Frightened, he paused and strained his ears, trying to locate the source of the sound. Following the direction of the cries, he made his way through the tall grasses that lined the tracks. There, hidden among the weeds, lay a shocking sight: a young woman, barely clothed and covered in blood. Without hesitation, Mr. Wang rushed to her side, his heart pounding with concern. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice filled with urgency. The girl weakly lifted her head, her eyes pleading for help. She was unable to speak, her breath coming and panting heavily. Filled with compassion, Mr. Wang quickly dialed the emergency number for the police. The girl got hurt pretty bad, but luckily she was saved in time. When she woke up, she said her name was Lai, 21 years old, and she left home because she had some problems and felt upset with her husband. At the train station in Qiqihar, a man around 30 struck up a conversation with her, suggesting they engage in sexual activity for money. With no money on her and feeling angry at her husband, Lai took a risk and hopped onto his bicycle, riding along the railroad tracks to an isolated area. After their encounter, the man turned aggressive, refusing to pay. He then proceeded to attack her, using a rope to restrain her and inflicting wounds on her abdomen with a screwdriver. Lai passed out from the pain, and when she came to, she realized the man had left. She struggled to crawl along the railroad tracks until she heard someone passing by before she cried out for help. After investigating, the police discovered that this case had many similarities with two others that happened 2 months ago in Qiqihar. In all three cases, the victims were women who were raped and choked, and the weapon used was a screwdriver. One victim was saved by a passerby, while the other lucky girl survived after fainting, just like Lai did. This case happened over 30 years ago when investigative technology was very limited and cameras weren't widely used in China at that time. Because of this, the police couldn't find any clues about the suspect. But on May 18, 1988, there was a significant turning point in the case. Late that night, a man over 30 years old went to a house in a village on the southern border of Qiqihar to borrow a shovel. The child of this family was curious about why the man needed a shovel in the middle of the night, so he secretly followed him. When they reached a deserted area outside the village, the boy saw the man digging a large hole and throwing a naked woman's body into it, which scared him, so he shouted out in fear. Realizing he had been discovered, the man dropped the shovel, jumped on his bicycle, and ran away. The boy and his family reported to the police, describing the suspect as having very fair skin and looking somewhat fierce, riding a bicycle with 28-inch wheels and a rear carrier. Later, several female bodies were discovered in the area surrounding the train station. All the victims had been sexually assaulted before being choked, with multiple stab wounds on their bodies. The police concluded that they were dealing with a serial rapist and murderer, so they formed a special task force to investigate the cases at the same time. Based on the descriptions from witnesses and surviving victims, the police compiled the basic characteristics of the suspect. Around 35 years old, fair skin, of average height, and riding a bicycle with 28-inch wheels. The city authorities gathered a large force to search for the killer, but he seemed to be cautious and remained hidden for a year afterward. On September 2, 1989, a female manager of a cotton production workshop was raped and strangled to death, and her savings book worth 3,000 yuan disappeared. At the crime scene, the police found several pieces of paper with prescription notes containing traces of the perpetrator's semen. On September 24 and 26, 2 female bodies were found in isolated areas, killed using the same methods as the previous victims, and subjected to even more hurt. The police thought the criminal usually did bad things in the afternoon. They mostly went after women who came from other places to the city. They tricked them with money from the train station to quiet places, then hurt and killed them. The task force set up a close watch around the train station area, while also setting up bait to lure out the murderer. The task force deployed a tight surveillance network around the train station area, while also setting up bait to lure out the murderer. 29-year-old female investigator Li Hua was assigned the role of the bait. Starting from October 1989, she dressed nicely and wandered around the train station every day, attracting the attention of many because they thought she was a sex worker. 7 days later, Li Hua saw a man with very pale skin entering the train station and looking around carefully. Based on her gut feeling, Li Hua thought this was the person she was looking for. The man approached her and suggested going outside to have fun, and Li Hua agreed. As soon as they left the train station, undercover police officers immediately captured him. After searching him, the police found several prescription notes, nylon ropes, and a screwdriver, along with a 28-inch bicycle parked not far from the train station. During interrogation, the man revealed his name as Yang Decheng, 38 years old, working in the water and electricity department of the Qiqihar Railway Bureau. He only admitted to buying sex and claimed to know nothing about the murder cases. In front of the police, Yang switched between foaming at the mouth and flying into a rage, crying and shouting in protest. At Yang Decheng's house, the police found a savings book with a signature of the murdered female manager from September, which he claimed to have found. Even when identified by the surviving victim, he still continued to claim his innocence, believing that she had mistaken him for someone else. The police compared Yang Decheng's semen sample with the one found at the crime scene, and the results matched. The screwdriver, nylon ropes found on him, and the bicycle tire tracks all matched the evidence left at the crime scene. Faced with strong evidence, Yang had to confess to his crimes. He admitted to committing 11 cases of rape and murder since 1985. The police also found a photo album of a girl in Yang Decheng's house. However, he insisted that it was a stolen album, and he had no idea who the girl in the photos was. This girl was not among the 11 victims Yang confessed to. With the horrific string of crimes he committed, Yang Decheng naturally faced the most severe punishment from the Chinese court. A year after his execution, people discovered the body of a young woman near the train station, identified as the girl in the album found at Yang Decheng's house. After comparing semen samples and the method of the crime, the police confirmed that this case was also carried out by Yang. The number of crimes he committed was believed to be much higher than the figure of 11. This case file doesn't mention anything about the background or life of the perpetrator, and it's unclear why he committed so many crimes. Perhaps he had a troubled childhood and suffered from antisocial personality disorder and a tendency towards violence, which made him a serial killer. Another puzzling aspect is that typically, when facing the death penalty, criminals confess to all the crimes they've committed in the past because the punishment doesn't change. However, Yang in this case denied knowing the girl in the photo album found at his house. Anyway, Yang could not reveal any details to us. The case has ended, but I just want to remind everyone, especially women who often have to go home alone at night, to know how to protect themselves. There are many unforeseen dangers out there, and predators often appear polite and harmless. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.